Hello and welcome to the Faith Perspective, dear sisters and brothers. I'm Adrian on Catholic SJ Radio. Now, the Faith Perspective gives us an opportunity to discuss matters and issues, trending issues, and events also that affect the church and also the world that we live in. Today, we welcome Father Adrian Danker SJ and Mr Kwek Mean Luck. Both of them have been appointed by His Eminence Cardinal William Goh as co-chairs of the Archdiocesan Pastoral Council. Father Adrian is co-chair representing the clergy and religious, while Mean Luck is co-chair representing the lay faithful. And whilst juggling, of course, his own career, Mean Luck himself is a parishioner of St. Mary of the Angels. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me this morning. I want to, before we start, just to contextualize for our listeners as well as our viewers who might not be so familiar of the topic that we'll be discussing about. Now, dear sisters and brothers, the idea of the formation of a Singapore Archdiocesan Pastoral Council began in 2021 with our own collective discernment, just at Archdiocese level, of course. And that was when we were celebrating our 200th anniversary of the founding of the Archdiocese of Singapore. And then Pope Francis inaugurated the diocesan phase of the Synod for all the dioceses of the world on 10th of October in Rome. And the dioceses themselves inaugurated the Synodal journey at the local level on October 17th, 2021. Now, the theme for what is known as the 16th Synod of Bishops is for a synodal church, communion, participation, and mission. Synodality indicates walking together and listening to one another, but above all, to the Holy Spirit. And the difference that has marked this synod is that it is unlike any previous ones that had taken place in the church. It started with and involved, and it still involves, the faithful at the local churches across the world, with a promise to listen to all, especially the lay people. So we went through the synodal conversations from November 2021 to April 2022, culminating locally in our own Archdiocesan Assembly in June 2022 at St. Joseph's Church, Bukit Timah. I wonder if any of you are remembering any of this, but, I thought I'd just, as I said, bring this up and so that we start off at the right place. And then when that process took place, there were also nominations to the APC, the Archdiocesan Pastoral Council, were made then, and then the confirmations of those nominated were made at the end of 2022. And the inauguration of our first Archdiocesan Pastoral Council took place on the 10th of February this year, just a little over a month ago. And so now we have our Archdiocesan Pastoral Council. And we have, of course, the two chairs, as I said, Father Adrian, that represents the religious and the clergy, and Mean Luck, the laity. Now, I can just put this question to either of you. Please share with us what the Archdiocesan Pastoral Council is about, and how is this different from other church councils?
Shall I? Okay. Morning, Andre. Morning, everyone. The APC, as we call it, right, the Archdiocesan Pastoral Council, is really a consultative body. It's a gathering of the faithful and the clergy and the religious, and we come together to reflect really through a process of discernment on the pastoral concerns or issues, and we make a recommendation back to the bishop and his committee and his councils, and from there to look at the needs of the diocese, the needs of the people of God.
Right.
So it's really consultative, So it plays a very different role from perhaps some other commissions and executive bodies here.
Right, right. Why do we need this pastoral council at this time of where we are today for the church here in Singapore?
I think if you go back to the history of the church, right, in the Second Vatican Council, in a document called Christus Dominus, the fathers who gathered at Vatican felt that it was good for the diocese to gather a council that would advise a bishop. And I suppose over time, as the council evolved and the understanding evolved, we better could see the needs of that particular council.
Right.
I think for us in Singapore, we've always hoped that we would get there. perhaps the timing is providential because, as you rightly put the context, we've gone through a process as a diocese, all of us.
Yes.
Yeah, clergy, laity, religious, right? We've gone through a time of reflection, of conversation, a time when we've really, I would say, we've softened the ground, the grounds of our hearts, okay?
Yes, Father.
Softened the ground of our hearts to listen to the Holy Spirit. And out of that, we've been able to be quite honest about what are some of the issues and concerns we face as a diocese, especially after 200 years.
Yes.
So for me, I would see this APC as opportune, providential, timing. I often talk about it as a gift, as a gift given to a diocese that after 200 years of being church, we have an opportunity now as a diocese to sit and reflect and talk. And then again, perhaps offer back to a bishop a direction after consultation with the people of God, a way to chart ourselves forward.
Right.
And listening to the voice of Jesus who guides us because we are his church.
Right. Now, I think this has also, probably crossed people's minds, and maybe I'll pose this question to Mean Luck. Is the APC meant to be a sort of investigative sort of body of sorts, or is the APC also a policing sort of body? Because a lot of people look at councils as being such, either investigative, consultative, possible, but they wonder, whether it's also a policing body.
Good morning, Andre. I understand it's a question that may be on people's mind when you hear the word council.
Yeah.
And the nature of the APC is that it's not an investigative body. It's not a policing body.
Right.
It comprises of the members of the clergy, members of the religious order, members of the laity. And it gathers them together in one platform really to provide a forum whereby we can all, as members of the church, come together to reflect on the needs and priorities of the church.
Right.
So I would say that it is a body that is created for consultation and for reflection.
Okay. Does this mean that anyone then can bring, a discussion or an issue to the APC, and that you would be able to look at it, or is there a process to approach the APC in that sense?
Yes, and in fact, our parishioners have been doing that. One of the first tasks of the APC is really to develop a 10-year pastoral plan for the Archbishop's consideration. Right. And an important source of feedback for the APC is really the inputs of all our parishioners that was collected during the Synodal process. And out of all this input, there are 4 broad areas that arise. One is in the area of discipleship. The second area is that of family and youth. A third area is that of evangelization and missionary work. And a fourth area is structures and support.
Right.
So these are 4 broad areas of concern that surfaced during the synodal process. And the APC will look at the feedback of our parishioners as an important source of input. But at the same time as the APC does its work, it will continue to engage in a consultative or synodal type of process to gather more and deeper inputs and reflections on these areas.
Right.
So the APC is forming study groups, but the study groups will comprise not just of APC members, it will comprise of non-APC members from the clergy, religious orders, as well as the laity. We will be looking to ask people to be resource persons that we can consult on. The APC is also going to be forming engagement sessions, whether for the study groups or for the APC as a whole. So in the coming weeks, we are meeting with church staff, with the leaders of the church organizations, with the PPC leaders, and with parishioners as a whole to share about the work of the APC and to better understand their needs and concerns.
Right, right. For parishes that already have their own PPCs, how can the APC be a support for these councils in the parishes that already exist.
One of the things we hope for, as Mean Luck rightly put it, is to continue the process of conversation. So we're hoping that the parishioners working with their PPC could, through their PPC representatives, be able to give us some ideas of their concerns on the ground when we meet them through the engagement sessions we have.
Right.
But more than that, on the study groups and in the resource persons, these will be drawn from the laity, they'll be drawn from the parishes.
Okay.
So the parish involvement will really be from grounds up. And we are hoping that those in parishes who know of their own parish members who are in the study groups or who are resource persons,
Right.
to have an engagement with them, and then they can bring it to these platforms for conversations, and then it can be surfaced up.
Right.
Yeah.
So hopefully there is a little bit of a groundswell then, and more people get involved. Okay. If you've just joined us, dear sisters and brothers, welcome to the Faith Perspective. Today we have with us Father Adrian Danker and Mr Kwek Mean Luck. Both of them are co-chairs of the Archdiocesan Pastoral Council, which has just been inaugurated by His Eminence Cardinal William Goh. And today we're finding out a little bit more about the APC and what it does. So can I ask, how does the APC intend to, discuss and maybe bring the concerns of the people to the fore, and then for us to discuss topics that have been on people's minds for a long, long time. I think there are many issues within the church. I'm not going to be, specific about them today, but I think there are many that the faithful have at the back of their minds. How can the APC be, I suppose, a sort of a conduit?
I think because the synodal process surfaces a lot of inputs, it gives us, I think, that foundation. And what the APC needs to do now is to actually go deeper into the areas that it has identified, and to look for the kind of solutions that are practicable, workable for the church. And the further inputs, the further feedback of parishioners who have been involved in these areas or who have concerns in these areas will be useful as we do that. So we'll do that through the study group process, which is really an investigative phase of the APC. But not just that, even after the APC comes up with a set of draft recommendations, we plan to hold an Archdiocesan Assembly, whereby we will share with the parishioners the draft recommendations that we have and provide another platform for our parishioners to come together, to reflect and provide their views on the directions of the church.
Okay. And how is the APC then hoping to convince and maybe involve the faithful to be part of this journey? Because, a lot of people want instant answers, instant resolutions. But how do you convince the people of God that this is a journey together? And, the whole process, the synodal process, is about listening and moving and journeying together. How to convince people to do that?
As with all journeys we make, right? And I keep thinking, as you're talking now, I keep thinking of that journey that Moses took his people on, right? They said yes to it at
Hopefully
the beginning.
it's not going to take 40 years.
No. I think we do want to do the work faithful to the time required for pastoral discernment, as we kind of envision and plan ahead.
Sure.
But as with all journeys we make, we begin strong. We begin with the enthusiasm. But along the way, it gets hard.
Yes.
Because it's really allowing the Spirit to work. Human beings, we tend to be very fast. We want things quick. So I think one of the ways we want to do it, as Mean Luck pointed out, is to continue the conversations at different times and in different ways with the faithful. Right? The engagement process that we have put in place at the initial part with the laity, with the church organizations, with the religious, with the PPCs, even with the clergy, is the beginning. Along the way, we hope to be able to update everyone. And as Mean Luck says, as we become clearer about the draft plans we have or the vision we have, is to engage everybody. So I would ask all of us to be patient. I would like to encourage all of us to recognize it's a journey we make. And like we did on the synodal process,
right.
It's not that it's slow, but it's procedural, right? And we see that as a progress. I remember not too long ago, a religious brother said to the students in SJ, he said, the journey of studying is like climbing a mountain. You climb up a slope, you get to a plateau, you cross the plateau, and you think it's never ending. Then you go up again, and you go up again, right? Yeah. And I'd like to encourage us to see it that way. We are moving forward. It's incremental. We are moving forward. But I think for us at the APC, we really want that engagement with everyone.
Right.
We want to be able to hear and to converse, and at different times we'll be reaching out. And at different times we hope that people will reach out to us too. Yeah.
Have you been able to work out on the different sorts of communications channels, maybe, where people might be able to send in their feedback or their thoughts, and really also to be able to allow them to share their experiences as well?
We've got a microsite on the church's website,
right? Yeah.
And if anybody goes there, it's the very first tab.
Right.
And I was quite surprised when I saw it for the first time. And it's the very first step. And I think the very first step, it invites all of us to say, this is important to us as a diocese.
Indeed.
And I'd like to invite everybody to have a look at that, And that would be one of the main platforms in which we would invite people to send in their concerns or their responses, even their suggestions. Right? It's an ongoing platform while we still continue to work out some of the finer plans of the engagements further down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you already have specific areas that you are going to be looking at, or is that going to be also worked out along the way?
We are really at the very early stages of the APC work.
Right.
And so we are keeping our minds and our hearts open to the prompting of the Spirit as it leads on what will be the top concerns of the church.
Right.
At the same time, I would want to emphasize again what Father Danker said. Even as we think about and as we reflect on what should be the needs, priorities, and concerns of the church that we focus on in the 10-year pastoral plan, the building of the church actually begins now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it begins now through a participative process whereby our parishioners come together to converse. That conversation, that coming together, that sharing of our intent and passion and commitment, that in itself is that first step towards building the church that we all want in our hearts.
Right. No, that's a beautiful way of putting that, like that. Which leads me actually to my next question, really. And when I was thinking about this, how do you think the APC, or if you share with us, how the APC hopes to develop a credible, maybe evidence base for churches and organizations to strengthen their vitality, develop leadership qualities amongst the leaders, and maybe even keep those in ministry updated, informed, and even formed, really. Would you be able to share a process that you might have in mind?
We, in coming into this invitation to plan ahead, right, and dream, one of the things we've had to sit down was to find a methodology.
Right.
A particular methodology which is really pastoral in nature. We recognize that prayer and discernment really are at the heart of it, right?
Correct.
So we went back to a very traditional, I would say, but very well-grounded way of doing things in the church called the See Judge Act. So we've used the See Judge Act as a model from which we have developed a 5-step approach.
Right.
And in the 5-step approach, it's really trying to look at the person of Jesus and the posture of Jesus. Because the invitation that I think we're making to all of us is that if we really are trying to hear the Holy Spirit, we have to lean into the realities of our time, into the realities of where people are, as Jesus leaned in, right? Because the first pastoral posture of God is the posture of listening.
Yeah.
Right? We hear in the Bible, God hears the cries of his people. Ignatius of Loyola talks about the meditation of the incarnation, where the Lord leans down and hears the cry of the people, and then Jesus responds.
Right.
So taking the posture of Jesus, we're inviting those involved in the APC first to look at the realities of Jesus, who immerses himself in the world, to look at the social analysis, right? Understand the realities. And then from there, doing a bit of what Jesus himself does, which oftentimes in the Bible is, pulling back, praying, looking at the person, discerning how he would respond, because how would God want to respond?
Yeah.
And as Pope Francis says, the style of God in the way he responds is that style of being close and tender and merciful, right? And then from there, he takes the action, the acts of compassion, the acts of forgiveness. We're hoping that this method that we would introduce to the study groups and to the resource persons, and hopefully in time to others, will be something that as a diocese we may find a way forward, where together we have a common means of attending to pastoral issues, attending to pastoral challenges, because we take it from the position of the Lord's eyes, the Lord's ears, the Lord's way of looking at things. Yeah. It's still beginning stages, because the See Judge Act has a very established way of working.
Yes.
But because this is pastoral discernment, it takes it a little bit differently, I'm often reminded of the line from Paul's writings, right? Paul says to put on the mind of Christ. What does it mean to put on the mind of Christ,
Right.
And then Origen says, to be holy is to see with the eyes of Christ. What is the challenge to see with the eyes of Christ?
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that I think we see the glimpses of God inviting us. But as with all things, it needs a little bit more prayer, a little bit more reflection to do it honestly and well. And we do it together with the people on the APC and the rest that we're consulting. So at least what we produce will be meaningful for the long haul for us as a diocese.
And that is, indeed a challenge, Father, as you said. And, the synodal process in itself, the Holy Father says, it's not, a parliamentary session of any sorts. But for those who feel that they have something to share, but they are hurt because they feel that they've not been heard, what would you say to these people? How would they be able to have that opportunity to be heard?
Okay, I'll speak of the experience of the synod process for the ministry I worked with. Right when the synod began, and Courage was invited to take part, it gave the members, the parents and the LGBTQ persons, an opportunity to be recognized first of all, right? To be recognized that they are part of church,
right?
And as part of church, they have something to contribute. And in the contributions which went to the assembly, it was shared with many people.
Right.
Members felt affirmed that they were able to share. Members felt their voices were heard. They did not expect that everyone would be taken, but just the fact that they would be heard was important, right? They look at the present process of the APC. I talked to them about it, and they see this as something hopeful, because their concerns are framed within a larger horizon of a church that is being invited to be relevant for the times, for the people here. And I would say to those who have been hurt, first of all, I would say, I feel for you. I feel for you because this is your reality and your pain. I apologize to you too for those of us in church who perhaps have failed you or hurt you, because we are human beings and we don't know better. Right. But I'd like to ask the people who've been hurt to try to find the faith that what has begun in this process in the Synod and now leads to the APC invites us to trust that this process has begun with a good and kind God, a merciful God, who invites us as a diocese to look at ourselves a bit more honestly and a lot more humbly, to find those spaces where we can do better.
Right.
So I'll ask them to have faith, but I'll also ask them to speak up and to share, maybe through their PPC members or through those who they know are connected with the work we do, or even to us, right? So we can hear their concerns and we can understand so that we can better respond as we think ahead. Yeah.
I mean, look, we've just come to the start of really the work that is to begin. But you have also been through a process, through the discernment process, the Synodal process, the Archdiocesan gathering that we had. For you as a member of the laity, and using your lenses, just share with us, what this process has been for you, and what do you yourself hope to see?
Maybe I'll share two things, Andre. I mean, firstly, in terms of what I hope to see, and secondly, what God has shown me. Firstly, for me, over the years working in the church, I've seen a lot of talent, passion, and commitment in all the different parts of our church, in clergy, in the members of religious orders and parishioners. And deep down, what I would really like for the APC to do through its process is to kindle more fires that burns for the church, and to have all these fires burning in the same direction for the church. In terms of what God has shown me, it's been really quite a remarkable journey. When I started out and I worked with Father Danker, I think each of us from different people would console us and say, so much work to be done.
Yeah.
How are you going to get this going? And I've repeated the same story almost daily to everyone whom we've spoken to who says that. And I said, come along for this journey, because this is a journey where God shows us, this is my church. I'm going to build it. Come and watch me do something remarkable. And that really has been my personal journey. From the time that He put us in this, God has provided.
Yeah.
He has provided us with people. He's provided us with direction. And I've never felt that want. And I really felt that this was a journey where God calls me along and says, this is my church. This is my baby. Come along. This is what I, the Father, will do. And in that process, each and every day, my faith is reinforced, because I see how much He loves this church, how much He loves us, and how much He provides for us in ways that we don't anticipate, in ways that we cannot envision. And so for me, it's really been a journey of faith. Even at this early stage, it's been a journey of faith where God has been renewing my faith in what is possible if we just let ourselves let go and let ourselves be there as vessels for His work.
Oh, thank you for sharing that very personal perspective, and a very beautiful one at that. Father, for you as a priest and as a religious, I'm sure the clergy and the religious are also looking for some sort of renewal or some form of direction as we move forward, as an archdiocese, as a church. Would you be able to share with us? Maybe not for everybody, but...
in many ways, I echo what Mean Luck says. I think, first of all, God has been very providential and very kind and gracious. I think if I could speak as a priest, right, and a religious, what we hope for is really for a church that comes together, really for a church that recognizes that we have been gathered at this point, at this time, right, in this place, to be church.
Right.
And that given all our talents and giftedness, given the fact that we all love God and we really, really want to do God's work, that we understand that in each one of us is a reflection of a God who wants to make the world better.
Yeah.
But we need to perhaps see beyond our own little turfs and recognize that, we're one.
Yes.
And that we're willing to share, we're willing to give and take, we're willing to draw the best out, we're willing to challenge each other to be better. But we do it all this in the spirit of a God who humbles us and calls us to walk with Him justly and to love tenderly. And to recognize that the Lord also provides us a shepherd who leads us the way. And that as the shepherd gathers us, right, we in turn learn how to shepherd so that we can shepherd others.
Right. And
that really the best shepherding we do, right, is sometimes being willing to go out to the difficult spaces. I was recently very struck because oftentimes we ask the question in pastoral work and pastoral planning, who is my brother, who is my sister?
Yes.
Right? And we do it very well. I think as a diocese, we've done it very well. We've got many works that we do, taking care of the minorities, taking care of the people on the margins, taking care of people in church, families, schools, all that. We know who is our brother. But I'm wondering whether maybe now the invitation is to see, where is my brother? Where is my sister? Where are those spaces we have not gone or ventured? Right. Or we've perhaps pulled back because we were afraid we shouldn't. And I think maybe now with that question, where are they? Right? Maybe the invitation to us as priests and religious with the laity is to go there. From the words of Star Trek, right? To go boldly where no man has gone before. But to really ask the question, right? Where have we not been able to? Because in my reflection in the last few days, actually, thinking, what does it mean to make our church closer to the church Jesus wants? Right? It's not about more programs or better programs. It's not maybe, being critical of one another or what we do, but really it's about finding where the gaps are. And aligning it closer to Jesus' vision, right? And in that alignment, when we can all align to Jesus, we become truer the church that the Lord wants. So that's my hope. And I think, as I've said, we've talked about it, that I think this opportunity of the APC allows us as the diocese to all come together, right? And to really, at this time, riding on so much good that has done, right? From the collective discernment, the synod process, the work that goes on in the different parishes in the PPC, the work that has been going on in the church organizations in the schools, right? There is so much of the giftedness of a groundswell of wanting to do God's work that we build it together. And in that we truly become the church God wants, the people of God. Right?
I just, just having listened to both of you, also, gives me great joy and confidence that I think the church is really, at this time, the church in Singapore is making and taking the right steps. With the APC, this is the first time we've had it. There are many dioceses that have had APCs for a long time already. But for us, this is now, I think, the right time for us to do this. And so just listening to the two of you share, I think, I can feel that many people on the ground are also charged or recharged and want to do something. And thank you. I just want to thank both of you for taking the time to come down again and to share with us your thoughts, because, it's important to hear from both the co-chairs and just to hear your perspectives from the clergy and the laity side. I think we need to feel that we can work together, as Father said, and to support each other, because neither side is stronger than the other. But together, we would truly be able to actually gift the world something so much better if we come together. Yep. So thank you so much, Father Adrian.
Thank you.
Mean Luck, thank you so much also for taking time.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Thanks.
So, dear sisters and brothers, again, there is so much to be done for the church, and not just for these gentlemen and the team that they have, but each and every one of us have a role to play. Each and every one of us. So what are you going to do about it? It's not just left to, a body of people to do things, but it depends on each and every one of us. We are the living stones of the church, dear sisters and brothers. So with that, I leave you, and I thank Father Adrian Danker. He is the co-chair of the APC representing the clergy and the religious, while Mean Luck is co-chair representing the lay faithful. Just a gentle reminder that if you're listening to us on our live stream, the Faith Perspective goes out every fortnight on Tuesdays, on Tuesday mornings at 8:30, and then the encore broadcast of this program is at 8 p.m. tonight, and again tomorrow, Wednesday at 5 p.m., and then on Thursday it's at 2:10 p.m. If you'd like to catch us and this particular interview and others at your own time, listen to our podcasts on Catholic SG Radio, our Spotify, and our iTunes, and you can also watch this episode on our Archdiocesan YouTube channel. I'm Andre Achang. God bless and love you all. Take care.